Hey, what's up, guys? Dan Fletcher here. Today we're going to pick up wherever we left off with the Ruby course on Codecademy. So it's been a little over a week since I recorded the last video. So, yeah, I don't know. We're going to see how well the first 8 episodes stuck with me. Just taking a peek here, figuring out where we left off. So it looks like it was arrays and hashes. We learned how to create a histogram. So yeah, today we're gonna start the blocks and sorting section, and we're gonna start with lesson 1 in section 5, methods, blocks, and sorting. So let's go. Just waiting for the page to load. Okay, so method syntax. Methods are defined using the keyword def, short for define. Methods have 3 parts: the header, which includes the def keyword, the name of the method, and any arguments the method takes. We'll get into arguments in the next section. The body, which is the code block that describes the procedures the method carries out. The body is indented 2 spaces by convention, as with for if, else if, and else statements. The method ends with the end keyword. Here's an example of what the syntax would look like for a simple function, welcome, that just prints welcome to Ruby to the console. Okay. So we've started a method in the editor to the right, but it's incomplete. Replace the underscores with the correct keywords so the method will work. Cool, so I'll do def. That's, I guess, oh right. The underscores of the method name sort of threw me off, but that's just like the convention. Yeah, def puts 1 to 10. End. So yeah, we're just taking a range and dot eaching over the range, and then for each item in the range, we're just printing it to the screen. So let's run it and see. There's the numbers 1 through 10. And yeah, so I do remember this is inclusive, and if we want to do the numbers 1 to 9, we would do an exclusive range, which I think should work, right? Yeah, cool. Alright, let's move on. Create your own. Now it's time for you to build your own method. Remember, the syntax looks like this: def, method name, do something, end. Create a method called greeting in the editor. It should use puts to print a greeting to the console. So def greeting puts hey, and then we'll run that, and we get hey. I'm not sure why I printed it twice, but okay. Close that guy. Let's go to the next one. Call it. Defining a method is great, but it's not much use to you unless you call it or tell your program to execute it. For example, if you call a method called Cartoon Fox, the program will start looking for the method with that name and try to execute the code inside it. If the program doesn't find a method called Cartoon Fox, it will return a name error. We'll cover errors in another lesson. You call a method just by typing its name. Remember when you saw us type puts 1 to 10 or greeting? After our method definition in the last 2 exercises, that was us calling our methods. We've set up a function, array of 10, and they keep using function and method interchangeably, but for those who don't already know, both are just subroutines. If you know what a subroutine is in programming languages, that's what a function or a method is. The only difference is really a function between a function and a method Method usually refers to functions that are belonging to an object. So like in this case, like you would actually just call these functions, not methods. I don't know what Ruby's convention is. Codecademy is probably just mixing the two up like most programmers do. So anyway, let's call array of 10. Run it. Right on. Parameters and arguments. If a method takes arguments, we say it accepts or expects those arguments. We might define a function, square, like so. So we have square, and then we have these parentheses, and the argument that it expects, or the parameter it takes, whatever you want to call it, is called n. And so whatever you pass a square, we're saying puts n to the power of 2. And call it like this, square 12, which prints 144. So the argument is the piece of code you actually put between the method's parentheses when you call it, and the parameter is the name you put between the method's parentheses when you define it. Another word too, this is just like some computer science like bullshit kind of, but there's like actual parameters, and you know what, actually forget about it, I don't know what I'm talking about. Moving on. So for instance, when we define square above, we gave it to the parameter n for number and passed it the argument 12 and we called it. You can think of a parameter as, you can think of parameters as placeholders the method definition gives to arguments, since it doesn't know ahead of time exactly what argument it's going to get. Parentheses are usually optional in Ruby, but it's a good idea to put your parameters and arguments in parentheses for readability. So call Cupertino method in the editor, passing it an argument 8. Cupertino. I wonder if, so does this work? Is that what they're saying? It does work. That's kind of cool. So do you need parentheses in the definition, or maybe this works too? Interesting. So Splat. Speaking of not knowing what to expect, your methods not only don't know what arguments they're going to get ahead of time, but occasionally they don't even know how many arguments there will be. Let's say you have a method friend that puts the argument it receives from the user. It might look something like this. So we're taking a name argument, puts my friend is, we're saying name. Of course we could use a template literal syntax here, or template strings, or I can't remember what Ruby calls them. This is great for just one friend, but what if you want to print out the what? But what if you want to print out all of the user's friends? What if you want to print out all of the user's friends without knowing how many friend names the user will put in ahead of time? The solution: Splat Arguments. Splat arguments are arguments preceded by an asterisk, which tells the program that the method can receive one or more arguments. So run the code, feel free to play around and call what up on as many friends as you like. So let's just look at this. There's an earthquake happening in my house. Def. So what up? I'm just kidding, there's not an earthquake really happening. It's my 4-year-old. Greeting. And then so that's one argument. So they're introducing two concepts. They're taking this like wildcard argument as well as having multiple arguments. So friends is every argument that you pass after the first argument. So what up becomes the greeting, and then friends is every argument that you pass, and basically like what I'm gathering here is friends just becomes an array. So you can do like, you know, argument 2, 3, 4, and 5 are just getting turned into an array called friends, and then we're dot eaching, and then we're putting the greeting and the friend using that string interpolation. So let's run it. Maybe. Yeah. What up, Ian? What up, Zoe? What up, Xena? Zenis? I don't even know. What up, Eleanor? And Bob. Run it. Awesome, let's go. So let's learn return. Sometimes we don't just want a method to print something to the console, but we actually want that method to hand us, or another method, back a value. For that, we use return. Yeah, so I'm guessing that they're trying to tell us you can return a method from a method in Ruby, which is pretty cool. So in the example above, we define a method called double that accepts an argument called n. Inside the method, we use return 2 times n. After that, we call our new double method with an argument 6 and store the result 12 in output. Well, no, that would restore, that would be 14. Wait. Then we increase output to 14 and print it out to the console. Oh, right. Sorry, I missed a line there. Define a new method called add that takes 2 numbers as arguments. Inside the method, return the sum of those 2 numbers. So define add, and we'll do n1 and n2. We will return n1 plus n2, end, and then we'll call add. Oh, it doesn't actually ask us to call it, so let's just run that. And it says we're good. So practice makes perfect. You won't become a master method maker till you make a mess of methods. Say that 3 times fast. I'm good. Def by 5 question mark. What does the question mark do again? I don't remember. Oh, this... Shit, I don't remember what it does. The example above is just a reminder on how to define a method. I'm trying to figure out for myself what this is doing, but I can't even remember. I remember you could do this on like properties, right? But I don't remember what it does to a property. Whatever. I'll come back to this if it's not explained later. Define a greeter method that takes a single string parameter name and returns a string greeting that person. Make sure to use return and don't use print or puts. Okay, so define greeter that takes a single string parameter called name and returns a string greeting that person. So we'll do hello name. Okay, so that should pass the first one. So define a by 3 question mark method that takes a single integer parameter number and returns true if that number is evenly divisible by 3 and false if not. Okay. So def by underscore. Oh, this, so wait, hang on. So this literally is a valid character in the name of a method. That's kind of weird. Okay, anyway, so number return, so divisible by 3. So if the number is divisible by 3, I think that's right. And that is right. Cool. So blocks are like nameless methods. Most methods that you've worked with have defined names that either you or someone else gave them. Example, array.sort, string.downcase, and so on. You can think of blocks as a way of creating methods that don't have a name. These are similar to anonymous functions in JavaScript or lambdas in Python. Blocks can be defined with either the keywords do and end or with curly braces. Check out the examples in the editor. Look familiar? Run the code to see the blocks execute their code. Okay, so yeah, this does look familiar. That's so 1 dot times do, so do this one time. 1 dot times puts as am I, so it should say I'm a code block, as am I. Next, how blocks differ from methods. There are some differences between blocks and methods, however. Check out the code in the editor. The capitalize method capitalizes a word, and we can continually invoke the capitalize method by name. We can capitalize Mats, capitalize Eduardo, or any string we like to our heart's content. However, the block that we define following .each will only be called once, and in the context of the array that we are iterating over. It appears just long enough to do some work for each, then vanishes into the night. So, does this make sense? Run the code to see the magical mirage of methods and blocks. Okay, yeah, so I guess basically what they're trying to say is this block of code is really no different than like this block of code in Ruby, other than when you put something inside of a function or a method or whatever you want to call it. This is reusable code. So let's run it and see what's happening. Yeah, so basically what you see here is just one way of capitalizing two names, and this is another way of capitalizing two names. Cool. So using code blocks, a method can take a block as a parameter. That's what .each has been doing this whole time, taking a block as a parameter and doing stuff with it. You just didn't notice because we didn't use the optional parentheses. We are sneaky. Sneaky guys at Codecademy. So passing a block to a method is a great way of abstracting certain tasks from the method and defining those tasks when we call the method. Abstraction is an important idea in computer science, and you can think of it as meaning making something simpler. Imagine if when you wanted to house hunt, you had to say, honey, let's go look at configurations of concrete, plywood, and vinyl siding. That'd be pretty crazy. Just like saying house simplifies listing its components using a block to define the task you want. The method, like .each to do, simplifies the task at hand. Currently, the second .each will print out 5 times, since it will print 5 for each item in the array, and there are 5 items. Modify the block so it will print each item in the array multiplied by 5. So, sorry, the block I puts I as past the current array item each time it is evaluated. This block prints the item. This block prints the number 5 for each item. Chooses to ignore the past item, which is allowed. So it wants us to say for each of these puts 5 times 5. No, hang on. print out 5 times. Modify the block so it will print each item in the array multiplied by 5. Oh, I times 5. Shit. Right. Come on. Really? Come on. Reloading. Come on, come on. Maybe this is just my internet connection. Though it looks pretty good actually. Yay! Awesome. Next. Introduction to sorting. Sorting arrays is a very common problem in computer science and is well studied for that reason. There are many algorithms, well-defined sequences of steps, each with its own trade-offs and advantages. Sorting algorithms can be a great introduction to computer science as a theoretical discipline, but for now we'll focus on how to use Ruby's built-in sorting library, which implements a few of these algorithms. Use the .sort method to sort the values in my array. Magic, isn't it? Display my array in the console. Okay, so puts my array .sort. Bam, sorted. Yeah, all right. So foundations. If we were to hand you 5 books and ask you to arrange them, sorted by title on a shelf, how would you do it? Most sorting algorithms assume we are sorting an array of items, which involves comparing any 2 items in the array and deciding which should come first. For our books example, if for any pair we always choose the book whose title came first in the alphabet, we could devise a strategy for sorting. These strategies are the sorting algorithms mentioned in the previous example. Our job is to decide how to compare 2 items in the list and let Ruby decide which strategy to use. What Ruby method could we call on books in order to sort the list of books alphabetically? Try it out in the editor. How might we sort the books in alphabetical order? Honestly, I don't know, other than just calling sort. I don't know. All right. They made it sound like it was going to be a lot more challenging. I don't know. Anyway, the combined comparison operator. We can also use a new operator called the combined comparison operator to compare 2 Ruby objects. A combined comparison operator looks like this, which looks like the spaceship operator in PHP. I'm guessing it probably does the same thing. It returns 0 if the first operand, which is the item to be compared, equals the second. 1 if the first operator is greater than the second, and -1 if the first operand is less than the second. Yeah, so a block that is passed into the sort method must return either 1, 0, or -1. It should return -1 if the first block parameter should come before the second, 1 if vice versa, and 0 if they are of equal weight, meaning one does not come before the other, i.e. if the 2 values are equal. Use the combined comparison operator to compare book 1 to book 2 in that order. If you run the code, think about what the results will be. Use the combined comparator operator to compare. So I'm guessing it wants us to print this to the console. So puts book 1 spaceship. Spaceship is way cooler than comparator operator. So puts book 1 spaceship, book 2 so it returns which one would be greater. This would be greater, right? So if the first is greater, it returns a 1. It looks like your comparison operator doesn't return the right value 1. It absolutely does return the value 1. Maybe it just doesn't want me to print. Okay, whatever. It's good. It's good. Everything's good. Getting technical. What if we wanted to sort the books by title, but from Z to A, or descending order? It appears that Ruby's sort method only works for A to Z or ascending order. The sort method assumes by default that you want to sort in ascending order, but it accepts a block as an optional argument that allows you, the programmer, to specify how 2 items should be compared. Sort your books in descending order on line 8. Use the example of sorting in ascending order on line 4 as a guide. Display the result in the console. Okay, so books.sort. So we're going to pass a block of code as an argument. And okay, so this is a little weird for me. So let's just copy this, and I want to actually print this out and see what this does. Which I think it's going to print this in ascending order. Right. So starting with A and working our way up. So can I just oh no, okay, so first book, second book, and I want to say second book, spaceship, first book, right? It might not want me to print this, but oh no, it did pass. Cool. All right. Yeah, I don't know. This is a little weird for me. It's like basically we're doing this, right? Unexpected pipe. Well, apparently sort doesn't like that bit. So it's sort of like we're saying like for each first book, so this would be like, this is kind of how I'm wrapping this around in my head. We have like an array of books, and we're saying, you know, so like start with the 0th book, right? Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So this is the value of first book, and then second book is going to be the next book in the array, which is a War and Peace, right? So then here we're saying second book, first book with the comparator operator. Well, second book is greater than this first book. So this is going to return a 1. So that's going to tell the sort method that we want to keep second book. And then whatever sorting algorithm this is using behind the scenes, I'm not sure which one, but basically we're telling that algorithm this is the book that we want to keep in this comparison. It sounds about right to me. That's how I'm making sense of this. Alright, so anyway, basic methods. Let's quickly review how to create a basic Ruby method. So we use the def, method name, we can take some arguments, return a value, end. The example above is just a syntax reminder. Create a method, welcome, that puts welcome to Ruby. After defining your method, call it. Okay, def, welcome, puts, welcome to Ruby, Ruby, end. And then we'll call welcome. I'm guessing you can call it like that if you want to make it look like other programming languages, or we can just forgo the parentheses. So methods with arguments. Good. Now let's make our method a bit more complex by adding arguments and a return statement. Change your welcome method definition. Add a single string parameter called name. Remove your put statement and replace it with return hello name. Okay, let's return. And we'll say hello name. We'll delete the exclamation mark. Okay, run it. Whoops. Give it a name. James. Run it. And it's good. Blocks. Let's go over what we learned about blocks. The example above is just a reminder about syntax. We calculate the sum of a list of numbers. So add a block after dot each that multiplies each item by itself and puts the result to the console. So can just do curly braces instead of the do end syntax. And so we'll go item and we'll put item times itself. And we're good. Looks like the last one. Okay, so sorting. Finally, let's review what we learned about sorting. Gives us some syntax here. Use dot sort with an exclamation to sort the fruits array in descending, that is reverse alphabetical order. You can use the combined comparison operator like the example above, or an if else statement. Right, because you could actually this is basically a shorthand of saying, if first book is greater than second book, return 1, else if second book is greater than first book, return 0, else return -1. Or, I can't remember which digit's supposed to return in which situations, but you know what I mean. But yeah, can't you also just do like fruits dot sort dot reverse? I feel like that's a lot cleaner than doing all of that, but whatever, whatevs. We'll do it their way. So pipe, we have our first. Honestly, I'm just gonna say A, B, and then yeah. So A, or no, actually B. Spaceship A, and should be good to go. Yep. Awesome. And yeah, so that's the end of sorting. Coming up next is ordering your library. In this project, we'll design a single Ruby method to sort large quantities of data in either ascending or descending order. So that wasn't so bad. I was a little worried. I went almost 2 weeks between recording these videos, and I'm trying not to cheat, so I didn't I haven't been reading anything about Ruby outside of everything that you saw me record myself doing up until now. So I was a little worried that everything I learned in the last 8 episodes or so was just going to be totally gone. But actually, it stuck. I think everything stuck pretty well. Yeah, I don't know. I think Ruby's a pretty nice language overall. It can be a little too terse for me at times, but I think that just it just comes with working with the language every day, and eventually I'm sure a lot of those things would read just like English to me with practice. But yeah, so anyway, look forward to the next video and moving onward with this series. If you have any questions or whatever, leave in the comments below. Click that subscribe button if you want these videos in your YouTube feed. And yeah, as always, thanks for watching. Cheers.